So how was it? Well, awesome and amazing. Now, I know some people had issues with the pacing with episode 4. I didn't feel that was a major problem. Here, though, I would say the first half dragged a little bit. Some of it was justified, but I will say be patient because they do pay it off in a big way, and I mean a major way, in the second half of the episode. So, what do we have with episode 5? Well, wow. It's no easy to condense it. We got zombies, Hitlers, Nazis, anti-Nazi Nazis, fascist rebels, betrayals, secrets, heart-wrenching emotional moments. It's just a roller coaster. Combine so many elements, it can be a mess. I thought this was fairly well structured. There were a few false moments, like for instance, a sniper section felt a little too close to Full Metal Jacket for me. But that's me, I'm a Kubrick expert, so that felt a little bit too much leaning on him. There's also a lot of bits and pieces to Superman, though a kind of black Superman who looks like Cyclops. I mean, it was cute, but if you're not a Snyder fan, you'll find that a little annoying and that could have been cut out or substantially edited a different way. So there were a few places where it's definitely indulging in the style they're creating with all this homage to the Romero films, zombie films, and of course Kubrick, who seems to be a major influence on Neil Druckmann, which makes sense because he's Jewish and Kubrick was Jewish. Still, overall, I don't think it was ideologically leaning too much one way or the other. If anything, this felt more right wing, except at one major place where they kind of modified a character, which I'll bring in at the end. There are probably two things, without spoiling too much, you should know. One is the timeline is a little wonky. Basically, this is kind of prior to episode 4, so they're jumping back in time for about a quarter to maybe half the episode, but then it starts to merge the timelines and they move forward together. So that may be a little awkward for people. So yeah, be aware that the timeline is being played with. There's also, of course, the question of, do the characters feel in universe the whole time? Like, I can understand this kid being very young, but he was making way too much noise. I mean, it's somewhat explained by him being deaf. That's fine, but still, at points he was complaining about food, and you're like, this is the apocalypse. Food will be scarce sometimes. So it definitely felt like some of the dialogue was out of character. Character moments where they reveal information felt like, well, you'd have to reveal that at that time. They could have just revealed that a little bit later, but it is what it is. So overall, I think politically and aesthetically, this was balanced. Probably the only place that felt it went a little too far was with the her Hitler, who frankly was even more crazy than Hitler and just way more bloody-minded. They do explain it a little bit because episode 4 was a little murky about the politics of the various factions, but still I felt with her it was way too overboard. It is good though, we get a moral compass. Everyone is basically better than her, but I think they could have sketched it out a little bit better. And they do set up when the zombies come in at the end. And I can't hide that the zombies do come in because they do give a lot of hints and they do pay it off here. It still felt a bit of a miracle moment, not necessarily with the zombies, but I will just say there is one building that they focus on that is insanely durable. I'm like, that structure seems to take a whole lot of punishment, does not collapse, even though entire buildings are collapsing in this world. So that felt a little strange. And again, the powers and abilities of the zombies felt a little all over the place. Like, some of them felt fine, like when Doomsday shows up, basically. Doomsday acts like Doomsday. You'd expect that character to be basically invincible, but yeah, some of the other zombies felt way too miraculously really weak and then really strong and then really fast and then really slow. On balance, this is a very dark episode. There's a note of optimism at the end, but I think overall they tried to be balanced with the emotional and action scenes and the way they played out. But now let's get to the political correctness, which is, was it a correct decision to make the child character deaf? They've also played with the ages, but I don't think I have any major issue with the deaf problem. I'm not deaf, so I don't know how big a disability this is. This is a divergence from the game, so I'm nervous when they do that. I'm not addicted to the game purity, but I do want to maintain consistency because with the Spider-Man films and things like that, I go crazy that keep changing things. So that was a little off, but not too much. I am puzzled by the age change because in the games, as far as I know, basically Ellie and him are the same age. Here, they have different ages. Were they implying that Ellie is like a older, bigger sister? I don't know. So that felt weird. So the deaf thing wasn't too distracting, but I would say that changing the ages, why that felt a little suspicious. Some questionable changes from the game, but overall I think they were justified. And the introduction of new characters, as well as sort of modifying the canonical characters. Overall, it's great stuff. Still, I am nervous they're going to go a little too far from the games. Giving this an 8.85, highly recommended, but again, be ready because this is a very, very dark and very emotive episode.